Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. As you know, businesses over the past 20 years have undergone some huge transformations. Many of them have moved their operations and presence online, either in the form of social media profiles, websites, or downloadable apps. What this has done within the field of data analytics has been to create a whole new host of metrics and KPIs. Today we're going to focus on one in particular, which is retention for installs. So what we're going to do is calculate day 1, day 3, day 7 retention for installs and recreate the chart behind me. Now again, what retention does for installs is it asks, of the people that install today, what percentage come tomorrow? What percentage come after 3 days and what percentage come after 7? We'll be answering this by building our own chart, pulling data from MySQL. Okay, so here we are in MySQL, and we just have a very generic installs table. And what we're going to do is select the very first install date per customer ID. And because this is an aggregation, we need to add a group by. Let's make sure this works as intended. Great. So now we have two columns, the customer ID and their install date. Let's create a subselect and call this table A. And I'm going to show you exactly what this does, but let me add two more columns. Okay, so we added 3 new columns that use date add calculations. And what we're trying to do with this is if we take the first row, right, we have a customer with an install date of July 31st. And what we want to know is, are they day 1, day 3, or day 7 retained? So we did those date add calculations because we want to see, hey, did this install return on August 1st, 1 day after their install date? Did they return on August 3rd, 3 days after their install date? Did they return 7 days after their install date on August 7th? So we did that for every single install essentially in this table. So there's one very important thing to remember about retention, which is retention is sensitive to time, right? So the date of this recording, for example, is August 24th. If we have a player that installs today, August 24th, or yesterday, August 23rd, we're not going to have day 7 retention available for them because 7 full days have not elapsed from their install date. So when you calculate retention, be very cognizant of this. So to make sure we're aware of this, what we're going to do is go to our logins table and just bring back and return the max login date so we know how much data we're working with. Okay, so here's our logins table. All we want to do is just say, hey, what's the max login date value here? How far does our data go? And in most relational databases or in ETL setups, typically you have data through the prior day. So today is August 24th, and I'm assuming that the max login date value from this table will be August 23rd or yesterday. So what that means is if you installed on August 22nd or earlier, we can calculate day 1 retention for you. If you installed on August 23rd, then we're not going to have day 1 retention for you until tomorrow. So just this awareness of the time sensitivity regarding this metric is very important. Okay, so our max login date as assumed was August 23rd, so we have data through yesterday. So what we're going to do now is we need this value scribed onto every record in this table right here. So what we're going to do is just a cross join. And if you don't know what a cross join is, please refer back to my cross join tutorial. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring this value over. And again, with a cross join, we don't need to have a join key condition. It's almost like a 1 = 1 join where it's always true, always valid. So it's going to bring back this value for every single record in this installs table. Okay, great. So we were able to successfully add that column through the cross join. So here it is, max login date. Now, before we go any further, I would really recommend just taking all this code and saving it into a temporary table so that the process doesn't get too crazy. So we wrote 2 temporary table statements up here. This is just so that we can run and rerun the process without encountering any issues. So for example, before saving records and putting it into the temporary table, it checks to make sure that an older instance doesn't exist, and if it does, it drops it. Okay, so here is our data. Perfect. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we'll take the first row, for example. We have an install that installed on July 31st. And what we need to do is to ask, hey, did this person log in the next day on August 1st? So to do that, we're gonna have to join to our login table. And we will do that same calculation for day 1, day 3, and day 7. Okay, here's our login table. So let's do a left join. And again, we want to do a join on the customer ID, right? Because we want to look at an install, a specific and unique install, and see if they logged in the next day or across subsequent days, which would be day 1, day 3, and day 7. So identify that individual uniquely, we have to join on the customer ID value. So the login date is always going to be greater than the install date because we're asking if the player returned at a date that's in the future of their install date. The b.login date has to be less than or equal to date add. Okay, so we're only interested in, for this install, did they log in at a date greater than their install date, but less than or equal to 7 days from their install date? And that works and accommodates our day 1, day 3, day 7 logic. Now let's calculate retention. To do this, I just want to reference a few columns in our table A. Okay, this statement is really important here. It's saying if they're day 1 day, so the date value that we're checking for day 1 retention, if that is greater than the max date that we have in our login table, then assign a null, right? And this goes back to the time sensitivity of retention, which is, hey, if someone installed today, August 24th, and our max value, for example, is August 23rd, we can't calculate day 1 retention until we have August 25th data, which is unavailable now. So until it's available, scribe that value as null. Okay, great. So if we do have enough data and they installed sometime in the past, maybe 14 days ago from today, then we're asking, okay, so if they installed on this date, the following day is this date, and if you find that date in the login table, meaning they equal each other, then give it a 1, that means they've retained. If not, assign a 0, which means they installed but did not return to the app to be counted as day 1 retained. Now we need to do this for day 3 and day 7. Okay, so now we're basically getting a count of day 1 retained installs, day 3 retained installs, and day 7 retained installs. Now we just need a unique count of total installs. Okay, here we are. Now we have all of our data and we're ready to take this to Excel. So here in Excel we have all of our data. We just need to calculate actual retention, so the retention percentage. Okay, so you're seeing some errors here. This is because the data isn't fully baked, right? So for example, if you look at installs from August 22nd, remember today is August 24th, 7 full days have not elapsed for us to successfully calculate day 7 retention. So this is why we're getting this error value here. But don't worry, this is completely normal. Can move these values out. And if we bring in the blank values, That'll be good because we do want to see drop off in the chart, because that'll just show that the data is not fully baked. And that's a super important concept. So fantastic, here's our retention chart, which shows day 1, day 3, day 7 retention. Now I want to show you the drop off, right? So let's just look at the last couple months. And there it is, here's our retention chart with the expected drop off due to the concept of fully baked data. If you like this content, continue to like and subscribe. Thank you very much.